Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, listeners, and anybody that responded to our next guest when he had his first appearance. And I say next to guest and first appearance because, as they say in entertainment, backed by popular demand, we have somebody who made such an impact, and there were so many responses, it even made me blush. So I'm very, very pleased to introduce Ram Menen. So Ram, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you very much, Chris. I mean, it's a pleasure to be back, and I was quite touched by the responses that we have had in the past.
It was incredible, Ram. I'm not being funny. I was proud of how proud you must have felt, because it was overwhelming, the amount of responses, separate emails, various posts, references. You know, I've even known you a long time. I didn't even know you were that nice a man.
Hey, I've always been a nice man.
No, you have. And on that note, that's the tag that lots of people were saying, you know, that it was nice to work with you. It was nice to work for you. It was nice to have you there. It was nice to have you in their corner. And I think in the post I put up, you know, one of the nicest men who's walked and actually been part of this industry. So it's incredible, Ram, seriously.
Thank you for that, Chris, and I really appreciate that. I mean, it's all about having fun in whatever you're doing. I mean, if you're working, and no matter what kind of work you do, you know, you need to have fun. I mean, if you're not having fun, there's no point in continuing with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you also come across, Ram, as somebody who did care, does care, and continues to care, and that's obviously reflective in your character, your personality, and the working relationships you had with so many people. So again, absolutely, I salute you. I take that old guys have more fun hat off. It's behind me. But yeah. Ram, one of the things that I'd like to do with you today, and you said about fun, that's a word that people haven't used for a long time because of this damn virus and all the issues that are going on and the complexities and the problems. But and not to make light of the word or light of the situation, but you're right. People have got to now start to enjoy what they're doing, because they've got to enjoy making things better, getting things back up and running, making sure things are being done simpler. And like that old saying, you know, it's easy to make things complex. It's hard to make things simple. But if ever there was a time to make things simple, it's now. So one of the things I'd like to touch on with you is, after firstly making a statement, is that everybody out there now who are in positions that we've held, or positions that we worked with or for, or they work for us, we wish them the utmost success, and we've got the utmost respect for the challenges that they're facing at the moment. So I know you'd agree with that.
Oh, absolutely, Chris. I mean, you know, having both of us and the others, I mean, we've all gone through this kind of stress, and unfortunately, the stress this time is kind of global, and it's kind of affected every aspect of life. So this is a tough one, but you know, like every time there has been a situation like that, there has also been opportunities and new developments coming in. It's a question of looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, and just make sure that it's not coming towards you.
Yeah, exactly. And that somebody else hasn't got the switch. But looking at that, and you're saying about opportunities and challenges. So listen, before we get on to the current challenges, what I'd like to do is just to reflect a little bit, because I've seen so many comments. What would you say were the biggest challenges that you had in your career when you were in the industry? And also, the reason we're doing it, so that we can let everybody know, it's not so that, you know, two old codgers can start looking back at how good we thought things were and giving advice. That's not what it's about. It's just about now, you know, respecting the past, consider the present in order to influence the future. So, you know, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had?
If I were to just pick one challenge up, and which, I mean, continues on even today, it's the mindset of the people.
Yeah.
I mean, we are very fortunate, and I think we talked about it during the last podcast, that we got seeing this tremendous amount of evolution, dynamic evolution in a very short period. When you are in a situation like that, you sometimes you have to let go of the past and take the present to move into the future.
Yeah.
The present has got to be dynamic enough to let you influence the future.
Exactly.
Part of the problem that we've had, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me, that it was the mindset of the people trying to hang on to the old ways of doing business, while technology was enabling more efficiency and more transparency and the whole works that comes with the technological evolution. And that to me was a major challenge that I was especially finding it in the industry itself. And that is probably the reason why we are so slow to adapt or adopt technology in our industry.
I agree with you. I agree. And digitalization technology now, it's something that has to be really, really taken on board. And that in itself is going to be a challenge, because people are going to see it as a cost outlay to gain something in the mid to long term. But it's something that's so necessary now.
Yeah, I mean, back to our times, remember the time that we used to actually close a deal in a bar. Well, with the DUI setting in, things were changing, and it wasn't possible. But there were people still, missing that, but not recognizing that things are changing now. And now it's always about documents to be signed before we actually deal a seal. I mean, the old days, we used to shake hands and look into each other's eyes, and the deal is done. And to a certain extent, we still did that. I still do that. But you have to also recognize the fact that there are different dynamics which are in play, which necessitate a certain amount of documentation and stuff like that to move forward. So those are the things. I mean, sometimes if you just start missing the old days, then you're not going forward. You're staying in the present.
Yeah.
So you need to, bring that change, adapt that change, adopt that change to go forward. And I always say this, and I have been saying this for about 20, 25 years. And this holds true, that the old rules don't apply and the new rules are not written.
Yeah.
Now, the question that I always asked was, should we be writing the rules now? And I always felt that the moment you write the rules, you become inflexible. You stay within the rules. So what you need to do is you need to create the rules for that moment. Take snapshot and rules for that moment, but don't apply those rules as you go forward, because the only rule that you apply is the rule of change.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair enough. And with that rule of change, and especially now, there's so much anxiety and fear with the expected redundancies, what's going to happen. You look at people that always thought they had a solid career, and you look at the way the forecasts were going in the industry, especially for pilots, and some who spent so much money of their own getting their licenses, and now there's going to be so many pilots out of work. I mean, not to mention everybody else that's associated in the cycles that evolve around the practices, handling an aircraft. It's phenomenal now what's going to happen. So this change and these rules, they have to be pretty dynamic and pretty effective now to make everybody happy with what's going to become the new normal, or the positive plan, the planned positives.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My heart goes out to everybody who is affected. And as I was saying before, it's just not our industry. I think every industry, corner of this earth, we have all been affected in some shape or form. But then again, there is going to be pain. There's going to be, we have seen that during the 9/11.
Yeah.
We have seen that during the SARS, and then later on MERS. The whole lot. But there are, like I was saying, you need to look at what can you do to change the dynamics of the current situation, and that's what you focus on. A part of your team focuses on managing right now, and part of your team actually starts looking for opportunities. Now, let me just bring you to the current at the moment. I mean, I honestly, I never ever thought that I would live to see passenger operators, sort of running across and trying to convert passenger airplanes into freighters. I mean, especially after the 2009, 2010 epic, where, I mean, cargo was no longer, interesting in the boardrooms of passenger airlines. Now, the same people are actually scrambling to, get cargo, to support cargo, and because that is now the source of revenue that's going to come. So that's an opportunity for all the cargo people there. Yeah. So, we are very fortunate in the sense that the cargo people have been less affected by this than the rest of the aviation industry as a whole. Yeah. But then again, I mean, this is also bringing in positive changes. I mean, people were, I was just looking at the new ruling that's come out in India. Customs have basically said that we are going to do away with all the papers. So everything has got to be electronic. Now, that's amazing. Yeah. That is really, really amazing, where, till late, they always insisted on printed paper. Yeah. So this is an amazing opportunity to just revamp, just do what you can to bring in more efficiency. Because at this point in time, it's all about reducing your cost by becoming more efficient. Yeah. In doing that, there's a certain amount of delta that might happen that could be human. Because as you become more efficient, you try and make human beings more redundant. I mean, my point of view would be, you don't make people redundant, you redeploy them in other areas of opportunities. Where they're more effective. And we have, in my past company, we had always done that. So it is a question of where do you focus? I mean, are you focusing on the doom and gloom and just get lost in that, or you are just moving forward? I mean, if you look at the e-commerce, it's just growing in double digits. Yeah, huge opportunity there. So what do we need to adopt to make their logistics more efficient? Yeah. Totally agree with you. And following on that point, one of the things I've always said is, everybody apart from the e-commerce experts, and everybody knows who they are, the rest don't really know what to do with e-commerce. They do a little bit, it's given to them, they know it's there. So one of the things that I think they should be doing now is, using this word collaboration. They should be looking at creating their own e-commerce corridors, to use a term that's becoming a lot more popular now with passengers, but they should use their own e-commerce corridors and get a complete chain of partners and start collaborating and doing it from front to end. First mile, last mile, everybody in between, get together, start doing it, start competing, and start making it, something that they can actually own, instead of wondering whether they're going to get a big slice or a small slice of the cake. Yeah, it's always a question of, making the cake bigger, so that everybody gets a bigger part of the slice. This again, this is where it becomes extremely important. Yes, running your company is very, very important, but at the same time, you need to make sure that the industry in itself grows. Yeah, and that is what makes the cake bigger. And also, it is very important that we actually don't get lost in jargons and new acronyms, etc. You remember the time when we started talking about logistics and supply chain, the whole lot? Everybody became sort of a logistics operator. I mean, even the airlines, and the truckers, they were all saying, "Oh, we are in the logistics business. We are a part of logistics, but we are in the transportation business." Yeah. So never lose sight of what your actual skill is. Within the chain. Yeah. Within the chain. Yeah. You're a part of the chain, and you're looking for creating collective efficiency rather than individual efficiency. You might create efficiency for yourself, but you might add on inefficiency on either side of the chain. And if you do that, the next part of the chain just picks up your efficiency and makes it more inefficient.
Exactly.
And this is where it is very, very important that it doesn't matter what element of the chain you are, you're looking at the big picture. And everything that you do, everything that you create, it has to fit into that big picture. And this is why it is also important that you're not just focusing on your own company, you focus on the on the industry as a whole, and you take the industry forward with you. If you are far ahead of the game, you might actually, you might be the only person there, and you might catch a cold. So it's a question of making sure that the industry is with you, and it's actually putting pressure on you so that you can keep on innovating. And innovation is very, very key to anything and everything that we do.
Exactly, exactly. Now, Ram, lots of people said how, what sort of a caring person you were, and how much you helped them and everything. Now, there's an awful lot of people out there that they're so worried, and quite rightly so. And it's through no fault of their own. It's not because they've done something wrong. It's not because the company has done something wrong. It's just because of the situation that we're in. Now, that also comes from something that many people were probably thinking anyhow. There was this: you've got to grow, you've got to keep growing, you've got to take on contracts that sometimes don't make sense because you've got to get bigger, and all this global contracting issues. And then we came to a situation where the margins were so low, Ram. So, it's a hard thing for people to understand, but that had to be corrected. It can't keep going with such slim margins, because then the risk areas of the business and business continuity become so fragile. So now, I think businesses have got to start looking at this continuity and sustainability, and also the cash flow, as well as margin matters. So there's going to be a correction also, which is probably going to affect people's pockets. And, that's something that people are going to have to be prepared for.
You're right. I mean, when you are in a situation like that, it's a question of survival. So when you're looking at the moment, a part of you is looking at, how do I survive?
Yeah.
And what do I need to do to survive? And that's very, very important. You need to do that, because otherwise, if you don't survive today, you're not there tomorrow. So it's a question of do what it takes to survive, but at the same time, be responsible and accountable. Because if you pull the markets down, it's in nobody's advantage. But having said that, again, I'm talking about change in mindset, which was one of the single biggest challenge that I talked about. It's a mindset. You got to get out of the mindset, and for exactly the same reasons what you said. The low margins will stop you from innovating, because you cannot invest back into the business. So you need to stop trying to make a buck out of each other, and that is where you pull the margins down. You have to get remunerated. You need to charge for the services that you render, based on the services that you render. If you get to that, it makes it'll work. If you now let's go completely outside of our industry. You won't try and call a plumber.
Yeah.
Now the plumber comes in. He charges you by the hour. He might also charge you for coming in there from the time that he actually starts off from his premises. So again, there is a time scale that you're paying for, and there is a set kind of remuneration. At an average, well, it is competitive, and it has to be competitive. There'll be plus minuses, but you're charging for the services that you rendered, the time that you actually spent on in doing things. In our industry, we've completely gone away from that. It's all about, if he's charging $2, I'll charge you 10 cents less. It doesn't matter. It's probably cost me $2.10.
Yeah.
So the cost part of this element has never really been the decision-making factor for a lot of the industry, a lot of the players.
Yeah.
And that's where the challenge is. I mean, as long as you know what you're doing and what the real cost is, people will charge for the remuneration. At the end of the day, whether your product sells or not depends on how good you are at delivering what you're trying to, the product that you say that you're going to deliver. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, the quality should be the differentiator.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
and the efficiency.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And it's crazy that, people just don't just have a minimum criteria, which is cost plus, irrespective of what the plus is, but that should be the minimum criteria.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
quality is so important. And also the whole of the QHSS&E, the whole group now, that's such an important group. And it's also something you mentioned about how cargo was not taken seriously at boardrooms. Neither has QHSS&E to a degree. They've done what they had to do, but they just want to tick it off, get it off the agenda. And now we start talking commercial terms. Whereas now it's a big part of business continuity and sustainability. And you're talking about acronyms. I've also got an acronym for QHSS&E, which is quality help should satisfy everyone. And if it does, then you've got some success there, but it hasn't in the past. Now, Ram, another thing that we are, okay, and what's happening? Society now is becoming a tug of war between two generations. The younger generation, who are desperate to get out of there, don't know why they can't be out there doing what they want to do, earning a living, enjoying themselves. And then you've got the other side of society, which is our generation, who are thinking to themselves, oh my God, it's hard enough now just getting by without now having to tackle another threat to life. So hopefully, please God, that tug of war isn't going to become, too prevalent and too obvious, whereby, resentment comes in. There's already the baby boomer issue and property owners and how difficult it is for youngsters to get on the property ladder. Now you've got the issue where the older people who've got the properties are able to stay in them. They don't want to come out of them, but they don't want anybody of the younger ones to be earning a living. So it's a crazy situation, huh?
Yeah, well, it is. It's trying to understand the two generations. Now, you and I, we come from the older generation. We came into this business by default.
Yep.
I'm an engineer, and got into this the cargo business. And later on, I actually realized that logistics is actually an engineering science because it's all process driven. So actually, engineers do pretty well in this business. Now, but what I'm saying is, we all came in here by default, and as we then said, right, I mean, let's make sure that the next generation don't have to relearn what we had to go through. And because we were going through this default process and we were actually learning and creating stuff, and we gave the benefit. And with Tiaka, we launched this program back in 1994, 1993, I think, to start talking to the universities to create programs. And we were pretty successful in doing that. And that's when you started seeing all these educational programs coming in supply chain management and logistics and the several different, elements of this thing being as a specialist subject being taught. So now you've got to understand the new generation which are coming in there have actually gone through that educational program. Okay, and the other thing that you need to understand about today's millennials is that they are they're looking at instant gratification.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and you need to understand, why are they looking for that instant gratification, and why didn't us lot not have that instant gratification? Because we were learning. We were spending time trying to learn. We were reinventing the wheel, whereas they already have the wheel. Now they're rolling it.
Yeah.
And they want to move forward fast. So the patience is a little bit challenged in today's the world. And as long as you understand that, the friction between the two generations will go away.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And one needs the other, and the other needs the other as well. So
exactly,
it's,
because we some of the older generations still expect things to be done in their own way.
yeah,
Whereas they're not recognizing the fact that the guys who have actually gone and educated and skilled as a specialist in that field, they have a better grip on what needs to be to happen and what can they use with the latest technology to make it more efficient.
yeah.
So that's very important. So understanding of the two different criteria, how we got here, the millennials also need to understand the older generations, where they're coming from.
Yeah. And like
and
the combination of the two. Yeah.
Yeah, and the older generation have to recognize the fact, or rather understand where they're going to.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'll tell you what, though, Ram, I genuinely think, you know, that the way cargo has come to the fore and people have realised how important it is to keep the wheels of the global economies and just sustainability of people's expectations, that's going to put a totally different attraction to the future generations now in universities and courses and everything else. So I think the industry's got a real bright future because of the level of people that are going to come in and want to come in, not like us, because we never sat in a classroom and said to the teacher, I can't wait to get into cargo. You know what I mean? It's just something that you, like you said, you fell into, or you knew people, or you lived near an airport. But in the future, I think it's definitely going to be the career of choice. And it's going to be, you know, so exciting moving forward.
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, and that's excitement moving forward, one of the things that came across so vividly from all the comments from the last podcast was how much you care. Now, people that are going to have the rough end of the stick now moving forward, what advice would you give to them?
You know, care comes from passion, and care comes from creating a family, creating a team. I mean, I have always been a believer that you always create a soccer team. In a soccer team, you only need 11 players. And all the 11 players have their positions in the field.
Yeah.
On the field. But it's the ball that dictates where they play and how they play and how much of a team they are in supporting each other to score the goal. So the ball is what brings them all onto the same page. So and also the captain plays. What is so important is that people have to see the ball. Today, in most corporations, they're all siloed. They stay in their position and they expect the ball to come to them. And that is a big problem. The other thing is, if you want to be a good leader, you need to ensure that you bring the best out of the people around you, and you manage that best. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be an expert on everything else, but you have people with expertise around them and get the best out of them.
Yeah.
And the only way you can bring the best out of them is not with the stick. You know, you have to create an environment where they are not afraid to put forth their views, their ideas, and you let them, if something is working, and you never measure them with with the stick of the failure. I mean, in my books, failure is good because you learn. If I were to go and give my money to an investment broker, I would rather go and give my money to an investment broker who's failed once or twice, so that he's not experimenting with mine. So it's that kind of attitude, and you have that as a leader. And if you know what you're doing is where you want to go, very crystal clear in your mind, then together you create that environment, you create that soccer team where you're playing as a team. The common goal is the ball in the other team's goal. And if you're able to do that, you progress. I mean, with Emirates, I mean, you know, we took Emirates from virtually zero to the largest international cargo airline in the world by 2012. And we had the smallest team that we ever, but they were a team. We had a few people on the back benches, but it was 11 players out there playing. So you then work your field in the way that is the most efficient, that everybody gets involved in moving that ball forward. So yeah. Communication, again, is very, very key. And that communication has got to be right from the top to the bottom. And the other thing that you got to understand is the junior most person in your team, probably the porters out there. If they don't do their job, you don't exist. And they probably are the most ignored people.
Yeah.
In a team. I'm saying the porters in the cargo business, could be anywhere. And those are, and there are frontliners. You know, you need to give accountability and responsibility. Make them accountable, at the same time, don't breathe over their necks. Let them do the job, because they are standing there and, you know, looking at the situation. They are the best to make the call. And you don't, punish people for mistakes made. You sometimes reward people to recognizing that they have made a mistake. And that's very, very important. So, yeah. And when you have an environment like this, everybody's happy. You know, nobody's watching their backside. Yeah. They don't become political. They know that, their opinion matters. And when you have that, people feel good about it. People get motivated.
They do indeed. They do indeed. I just fear that with these, with these challenging times now, some of the questions I've had from people is, I know I'm going to be made redundant. I know I'm not working at the moment. Things are getting on top of me. How can I cope? What do I do, etc.? When do you think things will come back? Obviously, you can't give people definitive answers, but one of the things that I've been advising people to do, especially if they're furloughed or if they're off, is pick out really, really important training and try and do training offline. Try and do as much training as you can, so that A, you're filling a bit of time and you're getting some value out of it because you're learning, and B, because hopefully by keeping up to date, by keeping aware of what's going on, if things do suddenly start to have surges, they're going to need to bring back qualified people. And one of the things I'm doing, Ram, and I hope you agree, is I've sent out a communication now to most of the representative bodies, asking them would they be able to put together a series of training courses that keep people involved if they're now going to be taken away from the team or taken away from the family, so that they still feel attached and they still feel that there's something there, and that they know that when things come back in maybe in a couple of years, that they would be the first ones that would be welcomed back.
I'm totally with you on that, and it's very important that you try and reskill, and there are several programs out there where you can actually reskill. And today, I would also say, we are the people with domain knowledge.
Yep.
But we lack the kind of, not data processing, the IT side of the business. I'm using that term very generically.
Yeah.
And I'm including also stuff like, data. We all have data, but we have no clue what to do with the data.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, get yourself skilled in digitization or on the IT side of the business, because you have this tremendous domain knowledge, see how can you apply that technology of today to make things more efficient. And like you said, the market is going to come back.
Yeah.
Look, this is not the first time we are going through this kind of situation. It's just that collectively we are in a perfect storm. But you come out, and in a perfect storm, what is very, very important is situational awareness. At every stage, you need to have situational awareness. In this case, the opportunities which are going to come up that you think will come out of this kind of situation, skill yourself, reskill yourself, retrain yourself. I mean, there are, if nothing, there are so many webinars out there. Get onto the webinars, listen to them. Don't just stay with the webinars in the air cargo industry. No, go into a manufacturing industry and try and understand what their issues are. At the end of the day, what we do cuts across to all the industries.
Yeah, and I think, Ram, I think one of the most popular questions when people start recruiting again and bringing people back on is, can you tell me what have you done during these terrible times?
Yeah.
And the way in which people will respond to that and show that they've put some effort back in, and they've utilized their time well, and they've reskilled or they've maintained their skills. Those are the things that will mark people out differently from others. And unfortunately, it's such a difficult thing to keep yourself motivated, get up in the morning, do certain things. But if you do, it makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of people go through this fear of technology, and they fear the artificial intelligence, the AI in this business. And people don't really understand what, a lot of people, don't really understand what AI is. AI is all analytics.
Yeah.
So you need to understand how the analytics work. So again, reskilling yourself in that particular area is actually good. And you use the AI that's developing, and you try and figure out, how can I make best use of that? How can I apply the AI coming in? You try and gather that knowledge within yourself. And this cuts, again, AI and the use of AI and technology, again, cuts across all industries. And you need to stop being tunnel visioned and just stay within your own environment. The more you understand about the other businesses, the better you can service them.
Yeah.
So when this is all over, and when you're getting recruited to go in another company, or you're starting whatever your own, you are more knowledgeable, and you make yourself more attractive to the recruiter.
Exactly.
And it goes again back to what you were saying. That is very, very important.
Yeah. I had a group of managers once, and I asked them, can anybody tell me a little bit about AI? And one guy said, yeah, it stands for accidental improvements. I said, okay. We had a good start. We had a good start to that meeting. But it also turned out.
If I stick to the old mindset, I mean, AI meant Air India, and then it became Airbus Industry.
Yeah, there's been many. But Ram, listen, just to close as we started, you received incredible feedback from
thank you.
Colleagues and from people that worked for you. Is there anything you want to say to them? Do you want to, because do you know what I'm saying? There was too many of them to all be part of your family, which is why I was so impressed. So there must be some ingredient out there. So whatever it is, you've managed to capture it, bottle it, and sell it well. But is there anything you'd like to say to them?
Yes, I mean, I have a lot to say to them, but the most of all, I'm very, very touched with the sentiments that came through. That goes without saying. But I consider myself blessed to have them around me and have been able to work with them. I think that in itself is it's a huge part of making me feel good, because they are in my life. They are still a part of my life, and that doesn't go away. I mean, you said, I mean, how there are a lot of people. I mean, they can be, you know, a family can be very, very big. Yeah, second cousins, third cousins, you know, twice removed, 4 times removed, 5 times removed. But that is what we are. We you know, we should never, ever, ever lose touch with the fact that we are humans, and humans make things happen.
Yeah.
We emotion. I became extremely emotional when I saw some of those responses. And I've been gone from the industry for 7 years, and I did not expect that. And
so was I, my friend. I was thinking of changing my name to Ram Menen.
Now, I'm so grateful for that. Usually what happens is, I mean, you know, you walk out of that door and you're part of the history, and you sort of become irrelevant. And but here, I mean, I'm so touched that people still have good stuff to say, but I'm also so proud of every member that I have interacted, and they have all done so well, and they are doing so well. Every time I see them climbing, you know, another step, it just makes me proud. You know, it is something that it's hard to explain. I mean, it is emotional, but at the same time, you know, it's been great to have them in my life.
Yeah, no, that's a lovely way to end. And I think now, in such unprecedented times, you know, leaders need to be people, and it's good to see people being people again. And some of the nice things that are happening, that's what's going to make everybody really, really successful in the future, and it's going to bring everybody out of this terrible time.
I have just one more point. This has also changed the dynamics of how people deal with people. In the olden days, we used to go and eyeball people, you know, whether in a bar or an office, or it didn't matter. But we actually eyeball people, and you know, we had that interaction. And today, the dynamics have changed. We're still able to eyeball people remotely.
Yeah.
So when you want to talk to people, they are there. So use the tools which are there to eyeball. Don't forget the fact that when you talk to each other, whether you're looking at somebody's eyes remotely or eyeballing them directly, there's warmth in there, and never ever lose that warmth. No matter how technological, you know, advancement the world goes through, but you need to have that human touch somewhere at some stage. One of the things that you need to also consider is when you are now going to go into this working from home culture, a lot of them will not actually physically interact. And that should not bring in isolation. So there, you have to, you know, bring in means and ways and means of having that physical interaction at some stage, whether it's socially or once a week or twice a week in an office, but you need to have that interaction all the time. Never ever let that go.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people that I've been dealing with as well at the moment, they know that they can't do it because of the offices and the socials. But what they're doing is once a fortnight, they're doing something with the whole group, and they're either having to wear certain hats, or they wear casual, or they talk about different things, just to make people realize that there's more out there than being true to yourself and being true to the job, because that's obviously a question mark that's still out for the jury at the moment. Is can you trust people? Yeah, but it's you know, it's a requirement now that, you know, people need to care more. I once had a guy, and he was almost blind, and there was people like, and you know, they'd say, oh no, you know, the strength of the handshake, and you look them in the eye, and you do all this, and you need to see the body language and everything. And I thought to myself, he was really successful. I said to him, I said, how do you make a quick judgment? And he said, I listen.
Yeah.
And he said, sometimes, he said, the tone of voice can throw you off. And he said, you can get a tough man who speaks quietly and a kind man who speaks loudly. He said, but you have to listen. He said, and listen to the messages, listen to the words. And he said, it's very hard to cheat when somebody is using certain, and he's right, so maybe a lot of us should listen a lot more now moving forwards and pay attention to people, but also help them whenever we can. And people being good people is what will take everybody out of this terrible situation.
Yeah, listening is something that it's nothing new. I mean, good leaders always listen.
Yeah.
And your ability to listen is probably the biggest strength that you have. Because in listening and in watching, you pick up things that might actually trigger something else. I mean, I always look at, for a salesperson, do you actually understand the customer? And let me give you an example. And I used to quote this example during my working days to my own team. The customer is like a magic eye painting. You're aware of the magic eye painting, right? Now, the magic eye painting is the image. The real image is not the image that you actually see. It's the image that's behind the image. And not everybody is able to see that.
Yeah.
And if you are able to see that, and that is the real image that you need to cater to and appreciate and service. So, and part of the way that you can you see that image is by being able to focus. Focusing, listening, and looking. So what you said is absolutely spot on. Listening is very, very important because that focuses your attention.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Understanding what the reality of the situation is.
Yeah, and different types of listening. Different types of listening.
Yeah.
Ram, believe it or not, my friend, time's up again.
Whoops.
And it flies by. Okay, but listen, seriously, your family should be very, very, and I know you are. You're very proud of what you've done, what you've achieved. You put an awful lot of years into the industry. You made a lot of difference to a lot of people's lives. Long may it continue. And obviously it clearly will, because people have got such a fond spot for you in their hearts, their minds, their memories, everything. And likewise, I remember something you did for my wife without asking, and it left a lasting impression. So fair play to you. Mind you, that doesn't sound too good, does it, to end the show by saying you did something for my wife that left a lasting impression? But it was a bit of advice. I clear that one up, okay? Yeah. Listen, thank you so much.
It sort of came out wrong.
Yeah. As a lot of things do sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the last thing that I would like to say to everybody is, thank you so much for everything that you guys have done, and thank you for not forgetting me.
No, they won't. And what we might do, Ram, is when people listen to this, if they want to ask questions, we might do a show where people ask questions of you. And so if anybody listening wants to do that, they can send their questions to chris@evaint.com. All right, so
that's great. Yeah,
I'm sure you'll be back on answering questions, my friend.
Thank you, Chris.
Take care. God bless. Stay safe. Yeah.
Yeah, you too.